Raizen. Raizen belonged to an elite class called Mazoku, basically the supernatural royalty among the powerful demons living in the demon world. He was one of the 3 kings of the demon world, and happened to be Yusuke Urameshi's ancient ancestor. Way back when demons and humans actually coexisted, he ruled as the strongest demon king. When Raizen was at his absolute peak, no demons in existence could touch him. Not even the 2 other demon kings, Yomi and Mukuro, would stand a chance against him. But here's the thing about being that strong. Constant battles with entire leagues of demons eventually wore him down. At some point, he got seriously messed up in all that fighting, which forced him into hiding and ended up being nursed back to health by this beautiful human woman. Now, being a demon, his first instinct was to devour her, and she basically told him to go ahead. Being a witch doctor, she practiced medicine by ingesting poisons and contagions to turn her blood into primitive vaccines. She taunted him into eating her if he wanted to risk her toxic blood and flesh rotting him from the inside out. So instead of eating her, they ended up falling in love and having a kid together. Eventually, he had to leave them behind, but made a promise that stuck with him forever. He wouldn't consume another human until he could see her again. When she died during childbirth, he kept that vow and never broke it. After going hundreds of years without eating humans and getting weaker because of it, he was still powerful enough to go toe-to-toe with Yomi and Mukuro. As an upper S-class Mazoku, his power levels were off the charts compared to other demons in his class. Even while starving and weakened, he could still match the other 2 kings blow for blow. His speed is absolutely insane, especially when he goes into a wild, frenzied state. His strength is equally terrifying. His attacks become so intense that lightning and static electricity start crackling around them, something that never happened with Yusuke's techniques before or after. He can actually take over his descendants' bodies and pump his own power through them, which is exactly what happened when he hijacked Yusuke's body. The lightning thing seems to be his signature move since it only shows up when he's in control. In old flashbacks, you can see him during his prime blasting enemies with white demonic energy that could send opponents flying into walls. His presence in the series kicks off during the massive showdown between Yusuke and the rogue spirit detective, Shinobu Sensui. Right in the middle of their fight, he suddenly takes over Yusuke's body, and you can actually see Yusuke's features morph to look more like his demonic ancestor. Once he's in complete control, he amps up Yusuke's spirit gun into a devastating energy blast, which starts wrecking Sensui with brutal efficiency. Yusuke starts fighting back for control and desperately tells Sensui to dodge. Too bad for Sensui, the shot connects anyways and kills him on the spot. When Yusuke gets back to the human world, Raizen becomes very curious about meeting his heir to the throne, and sends a crew of demons, 2 A-class and 1 S-class, to track him down. Yusuke initially refuses and ends up scrapping with them, but eventually decides to go along, bringing Kurama and Hiei as backup, while they head to meet the other 2 kings, Yomi and Mukuro. When Yusuke finally faces off against him, the power gap becomes painfully obvious. Even while he's practically on his deathbed, with maybe a year left to live, he's still leagues above Yusuke's level. During his first meeting with Yusuke, he casually flicked his fingers and created this energy blade that sliced right through Yusuke's chest, without breaking a sweat. Yusuke puts in serious training time with Hokushin, until they figure he's ready for another shot at fighting the Demon King. Problem is, he's literally starving to death because of his centuries-long ban on eating humans. When Yusuke goes to see him, hunger completely takes over and he nearly kills his own descendant in the middle of a feeding frenzy. When he gets really wild, he'll grab someone's face and just bulldoze them through walls, and across entire landscapes while surrounded by this green energy aura. After he explains the whole tragic backstory about his promise to the human woman, he dies shortly after. To prevent total chaos and war in the demon world, Yusuke sets up the Demon World Tournament. Before the tournament starts, Yusuke meets 2 of Raizen's allies, Enki and his wife Kokou. While Kokou mourns the fallen leader, Enki tells Yusuke just how incredibly powerful his ancestor really was. After Enki wins the tournament and becomes the new Demon World leader, Yusuke visits his grave to tell him about his decision to return to the human world. His spirit actually appears from the grave, gives Yusuke some final wisdom and responsibilities, then finally moves on for good. Yomi. Yomi sits on the throne as one of the 3 demon kings ruling the demon world. About 1,000 years back, this guy was running around as Yoko Kurama's right-hand man, in what was basically the most notorious demon gang you could imagine. They were pulling off massive heists against demon lords across the realm, building up legendary reputations while trying to establish their own kingdom from scratch. While Kurama was the ice-cold strategic genius, he was the exact opposite. He'd charge headfirst into the most dangerous situations possible, always trying to prove he could outshine his boss. Every single one of his crazy schemes ended up costing the gang big time, and Kurama had to keep swooping in to save his reckless behind, which understandably really started pissing Kurama off. So when rumors started floating around about some incredible treasure locked away in this supposedly unbreachable fortress, Kurama decided to send him on a scouting mission for this next big score. The moment he arrived at the creepy old castle ruins, some incredibly powerful enemy came out of nowhere and started massacring his entire crew. While everyone else was getting butchered, he came face to face with a powerful attacker while screaming for answers about why they were being ambushed. During the chaos of trying to defend himself, the enemy made one surgical strike across his face, slicing his eyes open and robbing him of his sight forever. Blinded and completely disoriented, he went tumbling off a cliff while his world literally went dark. The worst part was, Kurama never bothered showing up to rescue him. From that moment on, he carried this burning hatred for both his own stupid recklessness and whoever had stolen his vision from him. Rather than just rolling over and dying, he dragged himself back up and started figuring out how to navigate life without his eyes. He pushed his hearing abilities to absolutely insane levels, until he could sense everything happening around him, then started studying all the tactics and leadership qualities he observed from his former partner. Fast forward about 5 centuries, and he'd clawed his way up to conquering the entire kingdom of Gondara, becoming a legitimate force in demon politics. But he never forgot about getting payback on the person who blinded him. Eventually, he managed to track down his assailant and threw him in prison, planning to torture every last detail out of him about who had actually hired them to attack him. Once he secured his position as one of the 3 major demon kings, he took a completely opposite approach from both Raizen and Mukuro regarding the whole human consumption issue. He basically gave his entire kingdom free reign to hunt and devour as many humans as they wanted. While all 3 kings maintained this incredibly tense political balance where nobody dared to make the first move, he just sat back patiently waiting for Raizen to eventually starve himself to death. Losing his sight turned out to be a blessing in disguise, because he compensated by growing 4 additional ears, turning his hearing into something absolutely supernatural. His auditory abilities became so ridiculously enhanced that he can supposedly eavesdrop on every single conversation happening throughout his massive kingdom simultaneously. Even more impressive, he can detect the tiniest changes in people's heartbeats, which basically gives him the ability to read their facial expressions and emotional states despite being completely blind. He completely transformed his fighting approach by copying Kurama's methodical style, becoming this incredibly patient and calculating warrior who can precisely measure his opponent's attack speed just by listening, then activate his defensive barriers at exactly the right microsecond to conserve energy. His signature defensive technique is this brilliant green spherical shield, called the Demon Absorption Wall, that completely nullifies demon energy attacks by absorbing them. As a seasoned upper S-class demon with centuries of combat experience, his power levels are absolutely astronomical. His offensive arsenal includes gathering concentrated green demon energy into his palms and launching it at enemies while adjusting the blast size mid-combat. Plus, he can unleash multiple projectiles from a single energy sphere, in a technique that works similarly to Yusuke's shotgun attack. And his most devastating attack involves creating a massive tornado-shaped energy blast that forms when he channels power through his fists and releases it as a dark green whirlwind that absolutely demolishes whatever it hits. When Yusuke finally gets clearance to visit the demon world to meet his dying ancestor, Kurama, who is now living as a human in the human world, ends up receiving an invitation from Yomi and makes the decision to join his former partner. Right off the bat, he takes Kurama to meet the demon responsible for destroying his eyesight, and his incredible hearing picks up on the subtle changes in Kurama's heartbeat during the encounter. The tortured demon begs to be put out of his misery, and he tells the guy he'll do him that favor if he just answers one simple question: who sent him to attack him in the first place? The demon spills the beans and admits it was Yoko Kurama who ordered the hit. In a fit of rage, he goes ahead and kills the demon like he promised, but then turns to Kurama and says that he's not holding any grudges about it. Looking back at everything now, he realizes that he was being a complete idiot back then, and if he'd been in Kurama's shoes, he probably would have made the exact same call. He offers Kurama a position as his advisor, and when Kurama asks what happens if he turns down his offer, he casually threatens to murder his mother. When Yusuke comes up with this brilliant plan to organize the Demon World Tournament and invites him to participate, his initial reaction is pretty skeptical, but he eventually caves and agrees to join, after Kurama completely betrays him by switching sides to support Yusuke. Plus, he realizes that Mukuro had already committed to entering the competition. He made the dramatic decision to completely dissolve his entire kingdom and enter the tournament. During the preliminary rounds, fate paired him up against his own son Shura, who happens to be essentially a genetic clone of himself. Even though the younger demon unleashed absolutely everything in his arsenal, he effortlessly demonstrated that his power was in a completely different league, eventually managing to convince his son to surrender rather than continue the hopeless fight. His second round matchup against Yusuke turned into an epic battle, where his seemingly impenetrable barrier easily deflected Yusuke's standard spirit gun attacks, until Yusuke got creative and started blending his spirit and demon energies together in his attacks. And the fight all boils down to the final punch as both start to fall. Upon hearing Shura's desperate cry from the sidelines, he comes around and keeps himself from collapsing, leading to his victory after Yusuke is knocked out. Unfortunately, being completely drained of his energy after that grueling fight, he got knocked out in his next match against Kokou. After the tournament, he decides to embark on a journey with Shura to train him. Before leaving, he took the opportunity to patch things up with Kurama and asked him to pass along a message to Yusuke that he'd love a chance for a rematch someday. Then he told Kurama how genuinely happy he was to see his old partner again. Mukuro. Mukuro stands as one of the 3 demon kings ruling the demon world, but her story is darker than most people could handle. As a child, she was abandoned in freezing snow, only to be picked up by some wealthy demon who pretended to be her savior father. He turned her childhood into a living nightmare, using her as his personal plaything whenever the mood struck him. The really twisted part was that he implanted this microchip in her brain that would flood her mind with fake memories of his kindness every time she even considered killing him. The manga gets way more graphic about the horrors she endured, but either way, by age 7, she had reached her breaking point. She grabbed a bottle of acid and dumped it all over herself to destroy her appearance and make herself repulsive to him, managing to save only her left side from the damage. After disfiguring herself, he finally threw her out like trash, which she actually considered her moment of rebirth, since it meant freedom from that hell. She rebuilt herself with mechanical limbs to replace what the acid had destroyed, and swore that she would chase power no matter what it cost her. Walking around with bandages covering her scarred face, most demons assumed she was a male, and she built up an absolutely terrifying reputation for brutal violence that spread throughout the demon realm. What makes her truly dangerous is how her mental state directly controls her strength levels. The anime shows that her power basically feeds off of pure hatred and rage. She's probably the second most terrifying fighter in existence, with only Raizen potentially being stronger. While she prefers beating people to death with her bare hands, flashbacks show her wielding swords during her assassin period. Though she rarely bothers with weapons anymore, her upper S-class demon status means very few beings can even challenge her. She's got telepathic abilities that showed up when she mentally accepted Yusuke's tournament invitation and somehow transmitted that agreement to Yomi, though that might just be because of Yomi's territory-wide hearing powers. Her signature move is this insane third-dimensional cutter technique where she literally slices through reality itself, and anything that gets caught in those cuts gets chopped up too. She can control exactly where and how these dimensional slashes appear, making her way more precise and deadly than Kuwabara's dimensional sword tricks. When she creates enough of these cuts in one area, they form this lethal barrier, described as being like a razor-sharp spider web that shreds anything it touches. Her physical attacks pack enough punch that they create massive energy geysers when she hits anything, and she can charge up both her fists with power and release it all at once to devastate whatever's in its blast radius. When Yusuke decides to team up with Raizen and Kurama chooses to work with Yomi, she records a video message to Hiei and asks him to join her team. She challenges Hiei to prove his strength by battling Shigure, the person who originally gave him his Jagan Eye, so he could find his Hiroseki stone and the Ice Village. Both fighters end up completely shredded by the end of that brutal confrontation. She then reveals that she's been holding on to Hiei's Hiroseki stone this entire time, then dumps both beaten warriors into regeneration tanks to heal up. She moves Hiei's recovery tank into a private room, where she then strips down and tells him her entire life story, while showing him her real appearance underneath all those bandages, finally admitting that she developed genuine feelings for him due to their shared trauma. She later agrees to enter Yusuke's Demon World tournament. The tournament brackets pair her up against Hiei for what turns out to be an emotionally charged battle, where she keeps pushing him to show his full potential. He gets completely outclassed in hand-to-hand combat, so she goads him into activating his Jagan Eye powers. Both fighters seem to understand that their match can only end with one specific way, which leads Hiei to unleashing his Dragon of the Darkness Flame technique, though he's not trying to actually kill her with it. She pulls off what looks like an impossible feat by grabbing the demon's mouth and literally tearing it in half, which sends Hiei rocketing backward from the explosive force. But Hiei accomplishes his real objective during all that fighting. He manages to break the shackle on her left wrist that had been a symbol of her traumatic past, essentially setting her free from those psychological chains. A completely exhausted Hiei stumbles towards her, and she catches him in a tender embrace as he collapses to his knees. And in this anime-only moment, they both close their eyes with expressions of total peace and contentment. During the tournament finals, she goes up against Natsume, one of Raizen's old training partners. She manages to win that fight, but it's an incredibly close call that nearly goes the other way. Her next opponent is Enki, and he defeats her before eventually claiming the title of Demon World King. In the manga's aftermath, Hiei confronts her on her birthday and asks why she's never got revenge on the demon who destroyed her childhood, and her response is to immediately blast him out of her room with an energy burst that nearly puts a hole through his chest. He comes back later after talking things over with Kurama and confronting Mukuro's father, then explains about the microchip that had been preventing her from taking vengeance on her abuser all these years. Before handing the guy over to her, Hiei infects him with one of Kurama's special plant parasites that keeps the victim immobilized while regenerating any injuries, then tells her she can torture her former tormentor however she wants, for as long as she wants. He mentions that when she eventually gets bored of making him suffer, destroying his brain will be the only way to kill both the parasite and her adoptive father. She simply smiles at this twisted birthday gift, and he smirks back while wishing her a happy birthday. Enki. Enki is one of Raizen's closest buddies and becomes a solid ally to Yusuke down the line. He's hitched to Kokou, another member of Raizen's old crew, and while most demons are aggressive hotshots, Enki keeps things surprisingly chill. The guy doesn't get much screen time, but don't let that fool you, because he's packing some serious power as an upper S-class demon. Even Yomi, who's no slouch himself, admits that his strength comes pretty close to matching his own, though Enki's honest enough to admit that he and the rest of Raizen's gang have gotten a bit rusty over the years. When Raizen kicks the bucket and the Demon World Tournament gets announced, Enki shows up at Raizen's kingdom with his feisty wife Kokou to pay respect to their dead king and give Yusuke a proper greeting. After more of Raizen's old friends gather, he reveals that they've all come out of hiding specifically to join the tournament, making a pact to make it so brutal and intense that Raizen would be rolling over in his grave with jealous rage. To show they mean business, he and the others power up simultaneously, creating an energy display so massive it reaches all the way to Yomi and Mukuro's territories. While his actual fights stay off screen, he's spotted casually puffing his pipe while sitting on top of a mountain of defeated opponents during the preliminaries. It comes out that he managed to beat a weakened Mukuro in the finals, declaring him the champion as the new ruler of the demon world. He immediately decrees a new ruling that demons now have to leave humans alone. He also makes it clear that his reign will only last 3 years before another tournament kicks off, and the manga shows him to be a pretty laid-back ruler who spends most of his time lounging in bed with his wife and even shows up to Koenma's party. Kurama. Yoko Kurama was the legendary silver-haired fox demon who basically made a career out of being the ultimate thief in the demon world, an A-class demon status with a reputation that earned him the title Legendary Bandit. He had this whole operation going with his second-in-command Yomi and a crew of like-minded criminals, hitting up the most secure facilities and walking away with their most valuable treasures. But Yomi turned out to be a major liability. The guy was impulsive, reckless, and his bad decisions kept getting their crew killed. Kurama found himself constantly having to bail Yomi out of trouble, and eventually he'd had enough, so he did what any practical demon lord would do, send a hitman after his own lieutenant. He fed Yomi false intel about some well-guarded treasure, where the assassins ambushed Yomi's crew, blinded him, and Kurama left him for dead. Fast forward 15 years later, and Kurama's luck finally ran out. He tangled with Shunjun, one of Spirit World's Special Defense Force hunters, during a botched heist and got seriously messed up. His spirit barely escaped to the human world, where he found this pregnant woman named Shiori Minamino and decided to possess her unborn kid. The plan was simple: lay low, heal up, and then bounce back to the demon world. Except something unexpected happened. This human thing called empathy crept in. The turning point came during a childhood incident when his human mother threw herself onto broken glass in order to save him from falling, leaving permanent scars on her arms. That selfless act completely rewired something in his demon brain. When he was 14, he crossed paths with Hiei, and they started pulling off some missions together. A year later, his mom got seriously ill, and suddenly all that demon power meant nothing if he couldn't save the one person who'd shown him what love actually was. He teamed up with Hiei and another demon named Guki to steal 3 artifacts from the spirit world, specifically the Mirror of Darkness, that can grant any wish at the cost of the user's life. That's when Yusuke, the new spirit detective, showed up to retrieve the stolen goods. Kurama took him to the hospital where his mother was dying, activated the mirror, and made his wish: heal his mother completely at the price of his life. Yusuke, being the bleeding heart that he is, tried to sacrifice his own life instead. The mirror, impressed by Yusuke's compassion, granted the wish without requiring anyone to die. From that point on, Kurama became one of Yusuke's most reliable allies. He even helped fight against his former partner Hiei when Yusuke went to retrieve the stolen Shadow Sword. During the Saint Beast crisis, when demon insects invaded the human world, he joined Yusuke's team in heading down to Demon City. He faced off against Genbu and unleashed his signature rose whip technique for the first time, taking down the beast with a long thorny whip grown from a rose seed. He became a member of Team Urameshi in the Dark Tournament that really put him through the ringer. Against Team Rokuyukai, he dealt with Roto, who threatened his own mother. Kurama had already planted a death plant seed on the guy, and just had to stall long enough for the plant to burst out of his body and kill him. Then came the match against Team Masho's Gamma, a makeup-obsessed demon who cursed Kurama after losing, sealing his energy and mobility. This made his next fight against Toya brutal. With his energy still sealed and the only way to break the curse being to bleed himself dry, Kurama made a desperate move by planting a death plant seed in his own body and letting it feed off his trapped energy. Just as Toya's ice blade came at him, the plant sprouted and impaled his opponent. He won, but ended up collapsing, nearly being killed by Baken before their team leader intervened. During a match with Ura Urashima of Team Uratogi, something wild happened. Ura used the Idun box to regress opponents to baby form, but it backfired on Kurama when it transformed him back into his original Yoko form instead. After Team Urotogi's defeat, the team leader gives him the potion used in the Idun box, allowing him to access his Yoko form at will. The finals brought him face to face with Team Toguro's Karasu, a demon who could manipulate intangible forces. Kurama used the transformation potion, became Yoko, and nearly finished Karasu with the Ojigi plant that responds to movement by closing its leaves around its prey and crushing them to death. But Karasu survived, and Kurama is forced back into human form, only by making Karasu bleed and unleashing a life energy powered blood-sucking plant as the last resort did he manage to kill his opponent. After the Dark Tournament, a new threat emerged, Shinobu Sensui, the former spirit detective turned rogue. When Sensui kidnapped Kuwabara for his Dimension Sword abilities, Team Urameshi infiltrated Demon Door's cave. Kurama faced Game Master, who brought video games to life, then confronted Gourmet, discovering that Elder Toguro had survived by taking over the demon's body. He planted a sinning tree seed that would feed on Toguro's soul while trapping him in eternal nightmares. When Sensui defeated and killed Yusuke, the emotional trauma triggered Kurama's demon transformation. He chased Sensui into the demon world alongside Hiei, and later watched helplessly as the resurrected Yusuke fought and defeated the S-Class human. The Three Kings saga brought Kurama's past crashing back when Yomi contacted him, asking him to join him in taking down the other two demon kings of the demon world. Meeting Yomi again pushed Kurama's power to lower S-Class levels. When he faced the mid-S-Class Shachi, the general of Yomi's army, he transformed into Yoko and dominated the fight effortlessly by cutting him with his binding fist of the demonic vine. He became Yomi's right-hand man after recruiting a team of S-Class demons, assembled from survivors of previous Dark Tournament competitors, which strengthened Yomi's army. When Yusuke proposed a tournament to determine the demon world's ruler, everything changed. He ends up entering the tournament, and his fight with Shigure, the demon surgeon, became pivotal. Despite being outmatched in lower S-Class form, he transformed into upper S-Class Yoko, but deliberately reverted to human form as he refused to rely on that power, though in the manga version, his resolution wasn't as clearly defined. Instead, he won by merging the arena tree with the cherry seed he'd planted before the fight, causing it to bloom and strip Shigure of his weapon. Despite his win, his severe injuries would hold him back in the later round. He ended up losing to Kujo, one of Raizen's friends, in the third round. After the tournament, he had a talk with Yomi before returning to the human world to live a human life.
Just cutting in here really quick, I recently partnered up with GamerSupps. A lot of you might have already heard about GamerSupps before. They're like the go-to for energy supplements for gamers and people that enjoy anime and manga. Pretty big in the community. It's a product with 0 sugar, less than 1 carb, and less than 1 calorie, so it's keto friendly and diabetic safe. So this is pretty big because I used to drink a lot of energy drinks, and it's both healthier and cheaper than just straight up buying energy drinks from the gas station or something. And on top of that, I'm sure some of you may love this, they also have these like very aesthetic waifu cups that of course are anime themed because, you know, waifu. And what's really cool is if you click the link in my description and use my code ANIMEX, you'll get 10% off your order, and on top of that, you'll be helping this channel greatly. I wouldn't be recommending this stuff to you guys if I didn't use it myself. I literally drink it every day. Like, I'm drinking it right now as I record this video. The flavors are good, the service is amazing, you get your stuff very quickly. So make sure to use the link in my description and use my code to save some money.
Hiei. Hiei earned the nickname Amiko, or Cursed Child, because he broke every rule just by being born. As a male fire demon born to Hina, a Kurime ice maiden from an all-female race that reproduces asexually, his very existence was considered an abomination. His mother has gotten involved with a male fire demon outside their isolationist community, and when Hiei was born, other ice demons freaked out. They believed this Hellion offspring would bring violent doom to their village someday, so they did what any rational group of terrified ice demons would do. They threw the baby off a mountain. Hina's best friend, Rui, was forced to do the deed, while other demons held back his screaming, pleading mother. Somehow, tiny Hiei survived the fall and ended up being raised by a gang of bandits in the demon world, though that arrangement didn't last long. The kid had his mother's Hiroseki stone, created from her tears at his birth, and he wore it openly, almost like he was daring enemies to come after him. By age 5, he'd already reached A-class demon status. As he grew up, killing became his favorite pastime, which made everyone else fear and reject him even more. The rejection just made him more attached to that stone since it gave him some sense of calm and connection to something. But then he lost the precious stone during a fight with another demon and swore to search for it no matter what. This quest eventually led him to Shigure, the demon chiropractor and surgeon, who offered him a Joggin eye implant in exchange for his life story. Shigure warned him that the surgery would be incredibly painful and drain all his strength, but Hiei went through with it anyway. The procedure dropped his power level all the way down to lower D class, so he had to stick around in Lord Swordsmanship just to survive. With his new third eye, Hiei had two goals: find his lost village and unleash his destined wrath on them, and recover that special tier stone. The Jogging Eye led him back to the glacial village in just days, but when he got there, something unexpected happened. He felt pity for the ice demons because they seemed dead inside, with their cold hearts and frosty attitudes. Death would be too good for them, so he left them alone. He hoped to find his mother, but instead found Rui, who delivered the crushing news that Hina had committed suicide years ago from depression over losing her son. Even worse, Rui told him about his twin sister, Yukina, who had left the village without explanation, probably because she discovered she had a brother and went looking for him. When Rui realized who Hiei was, she begged him to kill her for her role in his fate, but he refused and walked away. From that moment, Hiei decided to use his Jogging Eye to find his sister instead of the Tear Stone, but before leaving Shigure permanently, he had to pay for those sword lessons. The payment was brutal. Shigure made him swear never to tell Yukina he was her brother if they ever met. Hiei accepted, claiming he'd never planned to tell her anyway. His search for Yukina eventually brought him to the human world, where he met Kurama in his human form. They'd first worked together defeating the demon Eight Hands a year before. This partnership led to teaming up with another demon named Guki to rob the spirit world's artifact vault, which made them targets of Yusuke Urameshi's first case as a spirit detective. When Yusuke came after them, Hiei had already captured Keiko and was using the stolen Shadow Blade to turn her into a demon. The fight went badly for Hiei initially, since Yusuke's counterattacks caught him off guard. He revealed his Jogin's enhanced form and became monstrous, but when he tried to stab Yusuke with the blade, Kurama intercepted it. Since Kurama was already part demon, the blade didn't have any effect on him. Kurama used his own blood to blind the Jogging Eye and cripple Hiei's powers. Though still too fast for Yusuke, Hiei got knocked unconscious when Yusuke's spirit gun bounced off the Mirror of Darkness and hit him from behind. Later, he joined the mission against the four Saint Beasts, facing Suryu, the second most powerful beast. Despite being seemingly overpowered by ice attacks, he broke free and killed his opponent. When he learned his sister was being held captive by a human named Tarukane, who forced her to shed priceless tear stones, he raced to save her. In the manga, he only hit Tarukane once before backing down out of respect for Yukina. The anime version had him continuously beating the man until Yukina tearfully begged him to stop. When Yukina asked who he was, he simply said he was a friend of Yusuke's group. Kurama asked why he didn't reveal the truth, and Hiei replied that Yukina would be happier not knowing. During the Dark Tournament, Hiei accomplished the supposedly impossible by summoning the Dragon of Darkness Flame against Zero in the first round. Since it was his first time using this legendary attack, it severely damaged his right arm, leaving him screaming in pain and unable to grip his sword. This limited him to just 4 matches total, though he won all of them. In the third round, he got tricked and trapped in a force field by Ruka the Enchantress, making him ineligible to fight. Ironically, this helped restore his damaged arm to full capacity. During the semifinals, he easily defeated Makintaro, then faced Kuro Momotaro, and his steaming spheres that made his body impervious to attacks. Hiei won using his reluctant Sword of Darkness Flame technique in brutal fashion. Against Bui of Team Toguro in the finals, he achieved something unprecedented. He mastered the darkness technique by consuming it, and wrecking half the stadium in the process. After the tournament ended, Hiei initially refused to help against Sensui until Yusuke bribed him with the chapter Black Tape, which contained recordings of humanity's worst crimes. In Sensui's lair, he got trapped in another dimension by Itsuki, and had to watch Yusuke fight Sensui until Yusuke gets killed. His newfound lower A-class powers weren't enough against Sensui's S-class sacred energy, though his energy rose to the middle A-class after Yusuke's resurrection. After getting the chapter Black Tape, he destroyed it without watching it in the anime, though the manga leaves this unclear. Mukuro later invited him to her territory, putting him through 6 months of survival tests against over 500 A-class demons. This boosted his power to low S-class. He then fought Shigure. Despite winning, he had lost part of his forearm and was mortally wounded. In the manga, he was literally cut in half at the waist. Mukuro healed him and returned his Hiroseki stone, which was in her possession the whole time. When Raizen died, he entered Yusuke's tournament to determine Demon World's new ruler. He made it through the preliminaries in the first round before facing Mukuro. Even with mid S-class power, he couldn't match her upper S-class energy. He lost, but achieved his real goal of freeing her from the shackles binding her to her dark past. In the end, he chose to stay in the Demon World, tasked with escorting lost humans back to the human realm, and erasing their memories with his Jogging Eye for 3 years. He still visits Kurama while traveling between worlds as he pleases. In the manga, he helped Mukuro get revenge on her cruel father by fusing him with a plant that automatically heals wounds, allowing endless torture. His parting words were simply, "Happy birthday." Natsume. Natsume is a female fighter who rolled with Raizen back in the day and ended up teaming with Yusuke for the first Demon World Tournament. During the preliminaries, she absolutely demolished Chu without breaking a sweat. Her signature move involves channeling this intense blue demon energy right in her palm, and launching it at whoever is unlucky enough to face her. She didn't actually need to blast Chu since he threw in the towel before she could unleash it, but she was locked and loaded. After wiping the floor with him, Chu tried asking her out, which went about as well as you'd expect. She straight up told him he was too weak, which lit a fire under him to get stronger. Her real test came against Mukuro in the tournament's later rounds. She lost, but just barely, which says everything about her skill level. Some think Mukuro's earlier fights, especially the brutal one against Hiei, might have worn her down just enough to tip the scales. Being an S-class demon, she's ridiculously powerful and stayed competitive with the Three Kings even after centuries of retirement from serious fighting. Later on, she takes Chu under her wing for training. When she asks if he wants to quit, he screams back with a definitive no. She even tells her brother Kujo that Chu's getting seriously strong and might actually catch up to her soon. Kujo wondered if she'd date him then, and while she said no, she quickly jumped to Chu's defense when her brother started talking trash. Kujo was also close to Raizen back in the day as both friend and training buddy. He's also Natsume's older twin brother, though that's only mentioned in the anime. When Raizen kicked the bucket, he started backing Yusuke, even jumping into the Demon World Tournament. His big matchup was against Toya, who actually gave him a decent run for his money since Toya could drain some of his demon energy during the fight. Still, Toya couldn't quite pull off the upset and went down in the end. Kujo's got this signature move where he strikes a specific pose and charges up yellow demon energy mixed with red lightning in both hands. When he unleashes it, the blast rockets across long distances and leaves a trail of explosions wherever he goes. He managed to take down Enki's wife Koku after that, which secured him the B-block victory. But his tournament run ended when Saizo, another one of Raizen's old crew, knocked him out in a later round. Koku is the wife of Enki. She also teamed up with Yusuke for the Demon World Tournament. The series doesn't actually show her individual fights, but she was spotted casually steamrolling through all her preliminary opponents, making her the winner of Block 77. She managed to take down Yomi in the main tournament, but eventually lost to Kujo. Still, things worked out since Enki ended up becoming the new Demon World King, which likely makes her queen by marriage. Saizo was another one of Raizen's old training buddies from way back. When Raizen died, he jumped on board with Yusuke and entered the Demon World Tournament. His first matchup put him against a demon called Enki in the A-block opening round. He steamrolled through that fight and kept the momentum going, eventually taking the entire A-block. His tournament run finally hit a wall when he faced Enki in the finals and came up short. The series doesn't give us much screen time with him, but don't let that fool you. He's sitting pretty as an upper S-class demon, which puts him among the absolute elite in the demon world. Denho was part of Raizen's crew and backed Yusuke when things got serious. He jumped into the Demon World Tournament and got matched against Uwabami in the C-block's opening round. He presumably crushed his way through the entire block before hitting his limit against Enki in what was likely the finals. The series barely shows him in action, but that doesn't mean much when you're packing upper S-class demon status. Soketsu is an upper S-class demon who used to spar with Raizen back when the Demon King was still alive. Like the rest of Raizen's old crew, he pays respects and eventually throws his support behind Yusuke for the Demon World Tournament. His big fight came against Jin, and despite Jin's impressive win techniques, he was clearly outclassed. Jin thought he had an advantage in the air until Soketsu casually revealed he could fly too. Even when Jin landed a solid whirlwind fist attack, he barely flinched and came back swinging with a brutal combo of punches. What made the fight interesting was Jin's incredible determination. The guy kept getting back up no matter how much punishment he took. This actually impressed him, and he mentioned that Jin reminded him of his younger self when he used to lose fights against Raizen. He decided to go full power, completely overwhelming Jin, but even then Jin refused to quit until he literally passed out while still standing. He showed respect by personally carrying Jin away after the match. Later, he faced off against Shu, another old friend from Raizen's circle. Shu mentioned it had been over 1,000 years since they last fought each other, though the outcome of that battle remains unknown. Shu was one of Raizen's old buddies who joined up with Yusuke and jumped into the Demon World Tournament. His first opponent was a demon called Urara in the A-block opening round. Later on, he got an intense battle with Soketsu. That fight has some serious history behind it since they hadn't clashed in over 1,000 years, though nobody knows how it ended. The series doesn't give him much screen time, but his upper S-class status and his fighting ability seems to match Soketsu's level, which says everything about just how dangerous this guy really is when things get serious. Tetsuzan. Tetsuzan was also part of Raizen's crew and backed Yusuke when the Demon World tournament kicked off. He got matched against Hikaru in A Block's opening round, and presumably made it through before running into Saizo, where his tournament run likely ended. Hokushin. Hokushin served as Raizen's right-hand man before his death and later became Yusuke's sparring partner and mentor. After Raizen took control of Yusuke's body during the brutal fight with Sensui, he dispatched Hokushin along with Seitei and Toho to the human world with a mission: bring his heir Yusuke to the demon world. When they met, Hokushin dropped some serious info on Yusuke. Seitei and Toho packed A-class demon strength, but he was operating on a whole different level as an S-class demon. Getting to the human world meant powering down to D-class levels and slipping through the barrier using organic controllers attached to their chest. The situation back home is messy. 3 demon kings are tearing the demon world apart in a brutal power struggle. The catch is that Raizen is literally starving himself. He developed this weird anorexia where he refuses to eat humans. Hokushin and the crew desperately need Yusuke to return and help defend their territory from the other 2 kings who are circling like vultures. Yusuke isn't buying any of it and wants to throw it down immediately. He figures that there's no way the supposed D-class demon could actually be stronger than him. Big mistake, as Hokushin completely demolishes Yusuke in their fight. Once Yusuke finally gets it and understands their loyalty, he agrees to follow them back within a week. Yusuke shows up early thanks to the SDF's help. Hokushin escorts him to the kingdom for his meeting with Raizen, and arrives after having to run there for 5 days straight. After that initial meeting, Hokushin becomes Yusuke's regular training partner, constantly sparring with him to prepare him for the day he's ready to inherit Raizen's kingdom. When Raizen eventually dies, Hokushin guides Yusuke to Yomi's kingdom, where Yusuke drops the bombshell idea of creating the Demon World Tournament. Hokushin reluctantly goes along with the tournament plan, but it means facing some painful fights against his strongest allies, mostly fellow monks who have been his brother in arms. He manages to win these battles, though they definitely leave their mark on him. As a lower S-class demon, his combat abilities are pretty wild. His body manipulation lets him stretch and twist his body in impossible ways, perfect for dodging attacks, landing hits from crazy distances, and even nullifying damage by marking his body too flexible to actually get hurt. He also packs a spiritual light attack that fires devastating energy blast. During the tournament's first round, he faces off against Shishi Wakamaru, and ends the fight by wrapping his neck around his opponent, forcing a quick surrender. After the tournament wraps up and the series concludes, Hokushin keeps training with his fellow monks, staying ready for when Yusuke returns in 3 years for the next tournament. Heden. Heden stands as one of the most respected lower S-class demons in all the demon world, earning massive recognition as a demonic arts guru. Before Hiei came along, he served as Mukuro's trusted right-hand man for an impressive 250 years of what he called glorious service. His reputation as a sorcerer gets mentioned during one of Yomi's cabinet meetings, though we never actually see him throw down in combat. When the Demon World Tournament rolls around, Heden enters with a completely different mindset than his counterparts Hokushin and Kurama, because he's dead set on taking down his former boss, Mukuro. Unfortunately, things don't go his way. Based on the tournament bracket, he most likely gets knocked out by either Denho or one of Raizen's old crew members. The manga suggests that he might have faced off against Jin instead, since Jin only fought Soketsu in the anime version. After getting eliminated along with other tournament losers, Enki assigns him to patrol duty. His new job involves hunting down any lost or wandering humans who somehow ended up in the demon world and safely escorting them back to the human world. His final appearance shows him working these patrols alongside Hiei, with the manga also including Shigure in their group, while the anime swaps out Shigure for Zakuro. Shachi. Shachi was a lower S-class demon who served as one of Yomi's army generals before everything went sideways. When Kurama gets invited to Yomi's kingdom, he immediately writes off the newcomer as nothing special. Things get heated fast when Kurama bluntly tells everyone that the Demon World generals are basically useless, since their power levels are way too weak to matter in any serious fight between the 3 kings. This comment absolutely infuriates Shachi, who starts plotting behind the scenes. He gets so jealous of how Yomi treats Kurama and values his opinions that he decides to take action. First, he plants a parasite demon to spy on Yomi and Kurama's private conversations, gathering intel on their relationship. Then he escalates things by sending that same parasite demon to the human world with a nasty mission: take control of Kurama's human brother. His twisted logic is that if Kurama gets forced to stay in the human world to protect his family, then Yomi will have no choice but to favor him again. The plan backfires spectacularly when Kurama intimidates the parasite demon and flips it to his side instead. When Yomi officially boots Shachi from his position and promotes Kurama to general of the entire army, he completely loses it and decides to assassinate Kurama in secret. His fatal mistake comes from trusting his power reading device too much. Seeing the low energy signature, he assumes that's Kurama's real strength and launches his attack. He gets obliterated when Kurama transforms into Yoku Kurama and slices him apart with his blinding fist of the demonic vine. The last thing he sees before dying is his device finally showing Kurama's true power level. Shigure. Shigure operates as a demon doctor in Mukuro's territory, earning the ominous title Doctor of Darkness throughout the demon world. His path first crosses with Hiei when the fire demon comes to have the Jagan Eye implanted on him. Shigure makes a deal. He'll implant the Jagan Eye if Hiei shares his life story and makes it interesting enough to warrant the risky procedure. After listening to Hiei's tragic backstory, he agrees to perform the dangerous operation. The procedure leaves Hiei in excruciating pain. It drains Hiei's demon energy to almost nothing, so Shigure offers shelter while his powers recover. During this recovery period, he teaches Hiei some basic swordsmanship techniques. Before Hiei leaves, Shigure makes him promise to never tell his sister the truth about what happened, if he ever finds her. Eventually, Shigure joins Mukuro's ranks and becomes one of her 77 elite guardsmen. His combat skills center around his massive trademark sword, the Rinka and To. Despite its enormous size, he wields it with incredible precision and lightning-fast speed, delivering multiple strikes in rapid succession. He can launch the weapon like a boomerang using his energy, making it travel in a circular path before returning to his hand. One of his signature moves involves spinning the sword overhead to create a massive tornado, then charging through its center with the blade positioned for maximum impact, resulting in devastating explosions. When Mukuro brings Hiei back to her territory, she arranges a battle between the two former acquaintances. Their fight ends brutally, with both warriors sustaining fatal wounds. Shigure loses the top half of his head, while Hiei gets severed at the waist. Mukuro heals both fighters, recognizing their value as warriors and surgeons. Later, he enters the first Demon World Tournament and reaches the finals against Kurama. Before their match, he offers to operate on Kurama to restore his Yoko form permanently, in exchange for hearing his story. During their battle, Kurama initially struggles despite his lower S-Class power level. When he transforms into upper S-Class Yoko, he easily outmaneuvers Shigure with superior speed, but voluntarily reforms to his human form as he refused to rely on that overwhelming power. Kurama wins through strategy rather than brute force, having secretly merged a cherry blossom seed with the dormant Orchininju tree serving as their arena before the fight began. When the massive tree suddenly blooms during battle, it strips away Shigure's weapon, securing Kurama's victory. The aftermath differs between versions. In the anime, Shigure declares that true swordsmen never lose twice, and apparently takes his own life by leaping from the top of Kurama's blooming tree creation, choosing death over the shame of defeat. The manga keeps him alive, showing him later on patrol duty with Hiei and Kiden. Shura. Shura gets created as Yomi's cloned son with one specific purpose, giving his father a better shot at winning the Demon World Tournament. When the tournament time rolls around, fate puts him directly against Yomi in the preliminaries for what becomes a brutal father-son showdown. He opens the fight aggressively, throwing everything he's got with a relentless barrage of punches and kicks. Unfortunately for him, Yomi effortlessly blocks every attack and fires back with his own devastating counters that sends his son crashing to the ground. Yomi tells him to give up and extends a hand to help him back up. Instead of accepting defeat, he pulls a sneaky move and launches a surprise attack while his father's guard is down. The massive energy wave creates a huge explosion that rocks the entire arena. When the smoke clears, Yomi stands there completely unharmed without even a scratch on him. Desperate to find an opening, he unleashes his demon spiral technique, but Yomi counters with his demon energy absorption wall, which sucks up every single projectile like they're nothing. With no viable strategy left, he gets absolutely demolished by his father's superior skills and power. Yomi asks him to surrender again, but he refuses, and actually demands that his father kill him instead, insisting this needs to be treated as a real fight. Yomi offers him an easy death if that's what he wants, then asks one final time for him to admit defeat. Breaking down in tears, he finally gives up. Yomi gets declared the winner and advances from Block 34 to the main competition. During the later tournament rounds, he becomes his father's biggest cheerleader and watches intensely as Yomi faces off against Yusuke. When both fighters collapse after their final decisive exchange of punches, he screams out for Yomi. His emotional cry snaps Yomi back to consciousness, giving him just enough strength to stay standing while Yusuke remains down, securing Yomi's victory. After the tournament ends, Yomi decides they should embark on a training journey together to make his son even stronger than Yusuke. Chu leads Team Roku Yukai during the Dark Tournament saga, and brings something completely wild to the table with his drunken fist fighting style. The whole concept works backwards from normal logic. The more alcohol he drinks, the stronger and more dangerous he becomes. His movements turn completely unpredictable when he's wasted, which makes him absolutely lethal in combat. He shows up after Hiei demolishes Zeru, explaining to the crowd that he missed the earlier matches because he lost at paper, rock, scissors. That's literally how his team decided their fighting order. The smell of booze radiating off him actually wakes Yusuke up from unconsciousness, and they both step into the ring ready to throw down. When Yusuke starts mocking his drunken fighting style, he gets seriously ticked off and releases his spirit energy before stumbling around the ring at insane speeds. Yusuke barely manages to block his first attack, then gets bombarded with such rapid-fire strikes that only Hiei can actually track them with his eyes. Yusuke survives the brutal assault and warns him about his spirit gun by firing a shot into the air. That's when things get really crazy. He chugs Ogre Killer, which is apparently the strongest alcohol in all of the demon world, and his aura starts glowing like he's radioactive. He unleashes his own version of the spirit gun technique, but with such a massive radius that Yusuke has to counter with his spirit gun double attack just to survive. This completely drains all of Yusuke's remaining ammunition. With both fighters running on empty, he suggests they settle things with a knife-edge deathmatch. They stab 2 knives into the ground and each fighter places the bottom of their foot on a blade. The rules are brutal but simple. Beat each other senseless with bare fists. Stay inside the line created by the knives, and no weapons allowed. Step outside the line and it's instant death. The loser gets pushed back far enough to slice their foot open on the blade. Both fighters go all out, trading devastating blows until they decide to end everything with one massive headbutt collision. Yusuke emerges victorious after he gets counted out for 10. When he comes to, he honorably asks Yusuke to finish him off since they agreed to a death match. Yusuke cheerfully refuses and promises him a rematch in the future, turning their rivalry into friendship. During the Three Kings saga, he gets training from Genkai and transforms into an A-class demon in the anime or middle S-class in the manga. He is one of the demons recruited by Kurama to join Yomi's team. When the Demon World Tournament comes around, he enters but immediately surrenders to a demon girl named Natsume, who's an upper S-class fighter. He's got a massive crush on her, which explains the surrender. This happens during the preliminaries in the anime, but in the first round in the manga. After throwing the match, he asks her out, but she brutally rejects him by saying he's too weak. He promises that in less than 2 years he'll become stronger than her. The final scene shows him training with Natsume, who asks if he's given up yet. He shouts back that he absolutely hasn't quit. Jin shows up during the Dark Tournament saga as a member of Team Masho, which is actually a cover name for the Shinobi of Spirit World. This demon commands complete mastery over air and wind, making him the most dangerous fighter on his team, despite Risho being the official leader. He can generate powerful gusts as displays of raw power, create protective barriers, deliver devastating wind-enhanced punches, and most impressively, achieve full flight. The flying gives him a massive advantage over ground-based opponents, though he's limited by natural wind speeds rather than his own power levels. One of his signature moves involves spinning his arms in rapid circular motions to create small twisters around his waist. The hollow centers let him deliver punches while the surrounding wind knocks back anyone who dodges, and the technique doubles as a shield against close-range attacks. He can pull this off with both fists simultaneously for maximum destruction. During the first 2 Dark Tournament fights, he stays completely silent and uninterested until Yusuke brutally takes down Bakken for beating up an unconscious Kurama. This display of justice gets him genuinely excited, and he enthusiastically jumps into the ring to thank Yusuke for handling that business before starting their own fight. When their match begins, he immediately takes to the air, seemingly putting himself in an unbeatable position. Yusuke fires a spirit gun, but since projectiles have to travel through air and he controls that element, deflecting it becomes child play. He then uses his Tornado Fist technique to rocket towards Yusuke at incredible speeds, but when Yusuke dodges, the wind blast sends him flying right off the stadium. To escalate things, he doubles up the Tornado Fist technique, covering both wrists with spinning air. Realizing he's out of options, Yusuke gambles with Genkai's Spirit Wave technique, even though he hasn't mastered it yet. The risky move pays off and Yusuke manages to defeat him. However, the interference of Team Masho's sponsor leads to the committee to rule the fight a draw because the referee supposedly delayed her counting. After the Dark Tournament ends, he appears again during the Demon World Tournament, having been recruited by Kurama to serve under Yomi. Along with Chu and the others, He undergoes intense training with Genkai that transforms him from an upper C class all the way to upper A class in the anime or middle S class in the manga. During the actual tournament, his path differs between versions. In the anime, he faces Soketsu. Despite being completely outclassed throughout the battle, he refuses to go down without a fight and unleashes his ultimate technique, Tornado Fist Explosion. This creates a massive lightning-charged tornado that erupts from his fist, but even this devastating attack isn't enough to overcome his stronger opponent. Though he gets defeated, he demonstrates incredible willpower by remaining standing even while unconscious. Before leaving, he swears to return for the next tournament specifically to face Yusuke. In the manga version, he wouldn't have fought Soketsu due to different tournament brackets, but most likely fell to Denho. Rinku. Rinku looks like just another childlike demon but packs serious combat skills into his deceptively innocent appearance. He's close friends with Chu and specializes in using yo-yos as his primary weapons in combat. These aren't ordinary toys though. They respond directly to his demon energy and deliver electrical shocks when they make contact with his opponents. His control over the yo-yo strings is absolutely nuts. He can curve them in impossible directions, wrap them around enemies, and has this twisted habit of lifting opponents way up into the air before slamming them back down to the earth. The yo-yos pack enough destructive force to smash through thick rock structures with ease. He can make them ride along the ground towards targets or use the strings to lift and slam opponents repeatedly. During the Dark Tournament, his maximum technique involves controlling 8 yo-yos simultaneously using all 10 fingers. Rinku starts with acrobatic kicks, but Kuwabara counters with a head punch. Initially seeming overwhelmed, Riku's just putting on a show before sneaking behind Kuwabara for a head kick. When Kuwabara gets up fine, Rinku gets frustrated and reveals his 8 demon energy yo-yos. Kuwabara tries slashing them, but the strings move like snakes. Riku ties up Kuwabara's limbs and drop him from high above the stadium. Kuwabara saves himself by using his spirit sword like a pole vault while attacking. Both get knocked out of the ring, but Rinku returns first after 5 counts and immobilizes Kuwabara with yo-yo string for the 10-count victory. After his team loses their overall match, he makes several appearances throughout the saga, most notably helping protect Keiko and an unconscious Yusuke from demons during the semifinals. During the Three Kings saga, he trains under Genkai and experiences massive improvement, becoming an A-class demon in the anime or middle S-class in the manga. His enhanced power level allows him to control 8 additional yo-yos using his toes, bringing his total to 16 weapons. He enters the Demon World Tournament as a member of Kurama's team, but gets eliminated in the first round after the preliminaries. According to Toya, his opponent Sasuga seduced him during their fight, leading to his defeat. Later in the series, he's seen with Sasuga watching Chu train under Natsume. Shishi Wakamaru. Shishi Wakamaru serves as both a member and poster boy for Team Ura Otoki during the Dark Tournament. This demon swordsman has some serious transformation abilities that lets him switch between his true imp form with horns and a smaller size, a human-like samurai appearance, and a partially transformed demon state that keeps his size but adds the horns. His imp form gives him major tactical advantages, since he can fly without burning demon energy and dodge attacks much faster and easier. No matter what form he takes, he always carries his katana. When he channels his energy into it, the weapon becomes the Banshee Shriek Sword, powered by spirits of long-dead demons. That lets him summon souls from the past as projectiles or even materialize them into protective barriers. His other signature gear is the Cape of No Return, a transparent cloak draped over his shoulders that can manipulate space itself. Anyone or anything caught in it gets instantly transported to another location across 3 worlds. During Team Ura Otogi's matchup against Team Urameshi, he uses his cape to easily defeat Kuwabara. His next opponent is the Masked Fighter, and he gets absolutely furious that this mysterious person is stealing his spotlight. He decides to rip off the mask, sending everyone into chaos when they discover an aging woman instead of the young girl they expected. The fight continues with him unleashing the Chorus of 1,000 Souls, an attack so powerful it nearly destroys the entire audience. Genkai spends most of the battle running around the stadium dodging his attacks, but when he goes for the kill, she reflects his sword energy right back at him, making his technique completely useless. Getting desperate, he partially reveals his true demon form to become more threatening, but Genkai overpowers him again by reflecting his own energy back at him. She mockingly refers to him as the late Shishi Wakamaru after defeating him, even though he survives the encounter. During the Three Kings saga, he trains in a cave alongside Chu, Rinku, Toya, Jin, and Suzuki under Genkai's guidance. All 6 fighters surpass their previous potential levels. Kurama visits them to explain his plan for keeping Yomi in check as Raizen's death approaches. After 6 months of intense training, they get introduced to Yomi with power levels ranging from 100,000 to 123,000, making them all upper A class demons in the anime or middle S class in the manga. When Raizen dies and Yusuke announces the Demon World Tournament, all 6 eagerly sign up. He makes it through the tournament preliminaries, but gets defeated by Hokushin in the main competition according to the anime. The manga version might have different results. If he beat Hokushin, he would have eventually lost to Koku anyway. After everything wraps up, he says goodbye to Yusuke along with the rest of Kurama's demons and heads off to train for the next tournament. Suzuki. Suzuki founded, owns, and captains Team Ura Otogi in the Dark Tournament, but his story starts way back when he went by the name Tanaka. As a kid, he considered himself a formidable fighter until he ran into a younger Toguro and made the worst decision of his life by challenging him to a fight. Toguro demolished him using only 3% of his strength in the anime or 30% in the manga. When he expected to die after the crushing defeat, Toguro called him a pathetic and spineless coward before sparing his life because he wasn't even worth killing. This humiliating loss becomes the driving force of his entire existence. He vows to kill Toguro in a future dark tournament. As a young adult, he assembles a crew of low-level demons and uses his crafting skill to create magical items that boost their strength to lower B-class levels. His creations include the Steaming Spheres for Kuro Momotaro, the Idon Box for Ura Urashima, the Cape of No Return for Shishi Wakamaru, the Trial Sword used by both Shishi Wakamaru and Kuwabara, and the Fruit of a Previous Life Potion that powers Ura Urashima's smoke. Beyond his skilled craftsmanship, he can change his appearance, size, and voice at will. His signature attack is the Rainbow Cyclone, where he charges energy around himself, spins clockwise, and sends multicolored energy lines from his fingers. Each color represents a different harmonic of demon energy. Disguised as Onji, he enters the semifinals against Kuwabara. He creates a black energy sphere that transports Kuwabara to another location through dimensional manipulation when he charges into it. His next opponent is Genkai, and he warns her that she won't be able to use the same technique she used on Shishi Wakamaru, because he can mask his power level. He unleashes Rainbow Cyclone and throws Genkai through the wall, but she emerges completely unharmed. She reveals that she managed to steal his red bald nose without him noticing, and declares she won't even use her spirit energy because he's not worthy of it. They agree to fight with bare fist only. Genkai completely overpowers him and breaks his back. He loses at the 10 count. But this defeat finally makes him realize he lacks the potential to ever beat younger Toguro. Instead of wallowing, he gives Kuwabara the Trial Sword and Kurama the Fruit of the Previous Life Potion, items that would become crucial in their later battles. During the Three Kings saga, he trains in a cave under Genkai's guidance alongside the other former tournament fighters, reaching upper A class in the anime or middle S class in the manga. He later participates in the Demon World Tournament along with others in Kurama's team. He uses his upgraded technique, Rainbow Cyclone Redux, to win his preliminary match. However, Toya reveals that he lost in the tournament and never really stood a chance. The manga doesn't have Toya making this statement, though he couldn't have made it past the 4th round where he presumably lost to Mukuro. Toya fights as a member of Team Masho Tsukai in the Dark Tournament, and specializes in his devastating frozen hell technique that turns water vapor into solid ice. He creates ice barriers that traps opponents with limited escape options and extends his aura to freeze entire surrounding areas. One of his signature moves involves surrounding his palm with demon energy and blowing into it like a flute, which freezes water molecules in the air into razor-sharp crystals that slice through enemies at high speeds. He can also freeze water molecules around his palm to create an ice sword strong enough to crush rocks. During Team Masho Tsukai's battle against Team Urameshi, he gets selected to fight Kurama after the Fox Demon's brutal encounter with Gamma. Kurama stalls for time, asking about the team's intentions, and he explains that the Shinobi clan plan to claim Hanging Neck Island as their base of operations, with their ultimate goal being freedom. Once he finishes explaining their motives, he immediately launches into combat. The fight becomes a cat-and-mouse game, with Kurama mostly running around the stadium, waiting for the energy-binding seal placed on him to wear off. Toya dominates most of the battle, firing multiple ice bullets and planning to end things by impaling Kurama with his ice sword. However, Kurama pulls off a brilliant tactical move by deliberately letting himself get slashed across the arm, then planting a death seed in the wound. When the plant sprouts, it stabs him directly through the chest and grabs his sword, preventing the killing blow. Though he survives, he's left wounded on the ground while an unconscious Kurama gets declared the winner. After crawling off the arena, Toya stays quiet until Yusuke's match gets called a draw. This pisses him off enough to confront their team leader, Risho, accusing him of cheating and breaking the ninja code of honor. Risho says he did whatever it took to win, while Toya couldn't handle responsibility, then backhands him and calls him a grunt. After their team loses, only 3 survive: Toya, Jin, and Risho. Toya and Jin team up while Risho isolates himself, effectively ending their ninja clan. They befriend Chu and Rinku, and all 4 later rescue Keiko and an unconscious Yusuke from demons. During the Three Kings saga, he also trains under Genkai and reaches upper A class in the anime or middle S class in the manga. Along with the others, he travels to the demon world with Kurama to join Yomi's side in the tournament. As his friends lose one by one in the later rounds, their hopes rest on him as he faces Kujo. He demonstrates his powered-up frozen hell by casually freezing the island-sized Okininju tree, a massive upgrade from only freezing tournament arenas before. He also unveils a new technique that surrounds opponents with ice, freezes parts of their body, drains their energy, and leaves them partially immobilized for follow-up attacks. He uses this new ability against Kujo, though his opponent allows himself to get caught and willingly drains his energy until it's just above his level. Despite the technique's effectiveness, breaking out remains possible if the enemy has higher energy levels, which Kujo demonstrates even with only slightly more power. Kurama and Yusuke watch the fight, with Kurama noting he's doing well and Yusuke expressing amazement at his training progress. He continues battling Kujo, but eventually gets overwhelmed. As his ice creations start melting away, Kujo picks him up and carries him to dry land. Sasuga. Sasuga enters the Demon World Tournament as a lower S-class demon on a dare from her friends. While her buddies join just for laughs, she becomes the only one who actually passes the preliminaries. When she first meets Rinku, he instantly falls head over heels for her. During the tournament, she defeats the love-struck Rinku, which makes Toya call him a hypocrite for criticizing Chu's forfeit to Natsume. Her tournament run likely ended in round 3 of D Block, probably getting eliminated by Mukuro. She spends the rest of the saga hanging out with Rinku. In the manga epilogue, both of them watch Chu training with Natsume from a cliff, agreeing he should stop chasing after her. Yusuke. Yusuke Urameshi is your typical teenage troublemaker who'd rather skip school and pick fights than do anything remotely productive. But everything changes when he gets hit by a car while saving some kid. Plot twist though, the kid would have been fine anyway. So there he is, dead as a doornail, when this bubbly woman named Botan shows up. She's basically the Grim Reaper, but way more cheerful than you'd expect. Turns out, Spirit World didn't see his heroic sacrifice coming, so they've got no afterlife slot reserved for him. But hey, they'll cut him a deal. Come back to life if he can hatch the Spirit Beast egg by doing 2 good deeds. Just when things are looking up, his house catches fire with his body still inside. His childhood friend Keiko rushes in to save him, but gets trapped. Yusuke dumps all his egg power to help the Spirit Beast create an escape route for her. Koenma, the guy running the Spirit World, decides this counts enough to let him return early. There's just one catch. Someone close to him needs to kiss him before midnight. He can only contact 3 people through dreams, but his mom's too drunk to function, so he tells Keiko and his rival Kuwabara. Kuwabara thinks the whole thing sounds way too gay and bails. To make it worse, Keiko's mom gets sick, which creates more delays. Botan has to possess the mom to get her to tell Keiko that Yusuke's in worse shape. Keiko makes it just in time with the life-saving smooch. Back among the living, Yusuke can suddenly see demons possessing random street punks. After taking one down, Botan explains that his death experience unlocked these abilities. Now he's Earth's new spirit detective, basically a supernatural cop dealing with demon problems. His signature move becomes the spirit gun. He concentrates spirit energy into his finger and fires it like a bullet. Early on, he can only use it once per day, but it packs a serious punch. His first major case involves recovering 3 stolen artifacts from the spirit world. This is where he meets Kurama and Hiei, who start as enemies but become his closest allies alongside Kuwabara. Then he encounters Genkai, this ancient martial arts master looking for someone to inherit her spirit wave technique. The training is brutal, but it pushes him from D class to C class power. Next up, he and his crew get sent to Mei's castle in Demon City to stop the 4 Saint Beasts from unleashing demon parasites on humanity. After that, they rescue an ice demon named Yukina, though nobody knows she's actually Hiei's twin sister, not even her. The rescue mission leads them to the Toguro brothers, who they defeat in what seems like an epic battle, but the Toguros threw the fight on purpose. Younger Toguro basically blackmails Yusuke to entering the Dark Tournament for a real showdown. 2 months of intense training with Genkai later, Yusuke joins the tournament with his team, including Genkai disguised as the Masked Fighter. They barely survive each round while dealing with a rigged system, but somehow make it to the finals against Team Toguro. Before the final battle, Genkai transferred most of her spirit energy to Yusuke through the Spirit Wave Orb, boosting him from lower B class to middle B class. Even with the power-up, Toguro at full strength is too much, so Toguro kills Kurabara to traumatize Yusuke into unlocking his hidden potential. The Gree pushes Yusuke to upper B class, and he channels everything into a massive spirit gun blast that finally takes down Toguro at his absolute peak. Kurabara was faking his death the whole time to help Yusuke power up. When Yusuke finds out, he beats the crap out of him. The next mission gets way more serious. Shinobu Sensui and his team of psychics are trying to open a portal to the demon world. When Sensui kidnaps Kurabara, Yusuke and the game chase them down. But Sensui is S-class strong, while Yusuke is still just lower A-class. Knowing he can't win, Yusuke lets Sensui kill him to awaken his friend's hidden power. His death works. Kurabara, Hiei, and Kurama all jump to A-class and pursue Sensui into the demon world. But even tougher, they're still outmatched by his S-class strength. Meanwhile, Yusuke's death triggers something unexpected. He resurrects with his dormant Mazoku demon blood finally awakening. Turns out he's descended from Raizen, one of the most powerful demon kings. The stars aligned just right, and his accumulated strength from all those battles made him worthy of the transformation. His first death was too early, but the second one pushed him straight to S-class demon power through atavism. Even with his new demon energy, Sensui is still winning until Raizen's spirits possesses Yusuke. His body transforms with demonic eyes, markings, and long white hair, reaching upper S-class power. Raizen unleashes the ultimate spirit gun through Yusuke's body, completely annihilating Sensui. The victory leaves Yusuke conflicted. He wanted to make that choice himself, not have his ancestor do it for him. Struggling with his new demon identity, he gets advice from Genkai and former spirit detective Kuroko Sato. Then Raizen's men shows up, inviting him to the demon world. Yusuke agrees since he wants answers and revenge for the Sensui interference. There he learns about his lineage and how his powers came to be. He spends a year training with Raizen before the old demon dies. Unable to rule Raizen's territory, Yusuke organizes a tournament instead to determine a new king to rule over the demon world. He breezes through the preliminaries in early rounds, beating Nekobaba and some demon called Toboso. The third round pairs him against Yomi, where he discovers sacred energy, a new power similar to what Sensui had. This lets him fire his spirit gun shots almost indefinitely to break through Yomi's defenses. Their final clash comes down to one punch. They rush each other and it would have been a tie, but Shura's random shout gives Yomi just enough focus to stay standing while Yusuke collapses. Though Yusuke loses, he damages Yomi badly enough that he loses in later rounds. There are few differences between how the anime and manga wrap things up, but the core idea stays the same. Yusuke comes back to the human world and reunites with Keiko. The time skip is pretty close in both versions too, taking place about a year and a half to 2 years after Yusuke headed off to the demon world.